The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Out of all the animated films crafted by Disney, Hunchback is one of their most polarizing. People either absolutely adore it as one of Disney's greatest achievements for the use of darker material than they would normally play with, or some would hate the film for taking the classic novel by Victor Hugo and sugarcoat it to become another little Disney flick. You know, basically share the same feelings as P.L. Travers to the movie Mary Poppins. Funny enough though, even if this is a film from the Disney Renaissance, you won't find this company putting this in a high pedestal as much as either The Lion King or Beauty and the Beast. I wouldn't say it's because it's one of their inferior films, but it could be more the fact that it goes into themes like religion, lust, genocide, and has a death count that could equate to 10 of their movies. You know, the usual stuff you'd find in family films. But now that we bring this movie out of its bell tower, will watching it feel like heaven's light? Or will it feel like we're burning in hellfire? Let's find out. The story. Despite the movie enveloping many themes, the centerpiece of the story is about social acceptance. How Quasimodo dreams of the day that he could walk among the people without being shunned by his appearance. His caretaker, Judge Frollo, would always paint a dark picture of the world outside of his bell tower. But his new allies, Esmeralda and Captain Phoebus, would show that there is much more good in the world than bad. Considering the source material that it's using, this film would enter into new levels where most other Disney films don't go. In order to tell the story, it has to go into these elements that they wouldn't have before, including a strong presence of Christianity, where Paris is completely ruled by faith. Death would be a lot more rampant to rise up the stakes for the lives of gypsies, and digging deeper into the subject of love and lust. For the latter, this goes beyond the usual fall in love and they live happily ever after trope. Considering that it's so overrated nowadays, this one decided to go into a more realistic portrayal, where Esmeralda falls in love with someone that's not Quasimodo, while Frollo feels like she ignited some strong sexual urges inside him.
Destroy Esmeralda, and let her taste the fires of hell, or else let her be mine and mine alone.
This is what sets this film apart from any other Disney film. It's not afraid to touch upon taboo subjects. Maybe it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it does take that extra step to make its narrative strong and on point. It knows very well that the point of the story is not about falling in love or being a hero. It's about being a part of a society that can accept you for who you are. It is true that the one flaw in the writing can be that the humor feels out of place, since it does seem more juvenile compared to the rest of the movie. I mean, sure, but it doesn't do it too much that it's completely distracting, and the jokes themselves can be enjoyable. It's one of those rare movies that manage to take all the risks in order to tell a strong story. The animation. In terms of the animation, this is right up there with some of the best of the Disney Renaissance. Many of the visual components are done in order to make this movie feel as grand as possible. Starting with the characters, they fall into the middle of two different design styles. It's more realistic than something like Beauty and the Beast, but still has more of a stylized look than Pocahontas. Even with the character animation, everything sticks to a more natural feel, with the exception of the gargoyles being more animated. However, the animators really went all out to present them with exceptional moments, like Clopin's high-energy dancing and the scenes when Quasimodo would swing around Notre Dame. As for the backgrounds, it makes sure to present Paris to make it feel so big and to capture even the smallest details in order to give some highly impressive shots of either the view Quasi has from his bell tower or inside Notre Dame. There is also some subtle use of CGI around the movie. This is mostly done when the camera would move around Notre Dame and onto some extras to get a big crowd. It's noticeable if you stare straight at it, but it's made to be hidden behind the hand-drawn foreground. When combining all these components, it can create some of the best examples of Disney animation. The moments that can visually stand out in the film are the musical numbers. That's where you can find it pull out all of its strongest techniques to make the movie feel as big as it is powerful. From the use of colors of Topsy-Turvy, the backgrounds in Out There, the character animation in A Guy Like You, and the subtlety of God Help the Outcast. No matter where you put this film, it's easily some of the best animation for the Disney Renaissance. The characters. For a story that contains some heavy themes, they have to have some characters strong enough to support it. Luckily, they are capable enough to carry the film. Starting with Quasimodo, he's more of a trapped soul who feels the urge to experience the world outside of his little zone instead of just watching it. As Laverne said it best,
"What good is watching a party if you never get to go here? Get away from me, go on, you bunch of buzzards."
Throughout the film, Quasi would learn about what it means to have a friend outside of talking gargoyles, and even a small taste of feeling loved. With those new emotions, they would go dictate his actions to either go help the ones he cares about, or even to start disobeying Frollo to become more independent. There's Esmeralda, who is equally as clever as she is kind to be the first person to show some humanity for Quasimodo, and because she is a gypsy, she understands the pain that he goes through from the public seeing him as a monster, since it is said during the time when gypsies are seen as thieves and sinners. There's also Captain Phoebus, a respected militant who sees more humanity in the gypsies, and it's what makes him not follow the orders of Frollo and instead falls in love with Esmeralda. You also have Clopin, who's more the storyteller of the film, but also plays a part as a gypsy himself. And then there's Judge Claude Frollo. Many have claimed him to be one of Disney's greatest villains, and the fact that he is in one of their darker movies is a good indication to why. He is a man who shows no mercy to those that he is opposed to. He is fueled by his passionate hate towards gypsies, and would even go to far lengths to get rid of them, even if it means death. However, his biggest enemy is actually himself. He knows that he is full of sin, and he has unquenched desires, especially with Esmeralda. But his own beliefs that he is a respected Christian is what clouds his mind to believe that most of what he does is right, and it isn't bad if he's the one doing it.
But I'm a patient man, and gypsies don't do well inside stone walls.
And then you have the gargoyles, Hugo, Victor, and Laverne. For some people, these characters alone are what would turn them off from this film. And admittedly, I can understand why they're heavily criticized. You have this movie that's trying to be more adult, but then you have these comic reliefs that are making these dumb jokes for kids out of nowhere. Why are they even here in the first place? Well, you have to keep in mind that this was made during the middle of the Disney Renaissance. Disney already had massive success with comedic sidekicks before, like with Lumiere and Cogsworth from Beauty and the Beast, the Genie from Aladdin, and Timon and Pumbaa from The Lion King. With all that said, it shouldn't come as a surprise that this movie would include their own sidekicks as well. I will say though that they are both enjoyable and funny in their own right. It's just that they feel out of place in a movie like this and would be better interpreted if they are just figments of Quasimodo's imagination. Sure, there are a few oddballs, but when you look at the right characters, they can leave a strong impact on this movie. The songs. Each song is meant to represent one of the strong themes from this movie, and they present them in a way that feels powerful. You start off with the Bells of Notre Dame, which is meant to set up the grand scale of the movie.
Dark was the night when our tale was begun on the docks near Notre Dame.
Shut it up, will you?
This would then follow up with Out There, that's supposed to emphasize the message and Quasimodo's need of social acceptance.
And up there, living in the sun.
But considering that it's not all serious in the film, they put in Topsy-Turvy to shake up the mood to have a more lighthearted moment.
Everyone is acting crazy, dross is gold and weeds are up to pay. That's the way on Topsy every day.
But things get real again once we get into the moment of faith and hope with God Help the Outcast.
Show them the mercy they don't find on earth.
Soon afterwards, the standout moment for many would come in to show the theme of love and lust from Quasimodo and Frollo respectively with Heaven's Light and Hellfire.
Like fire, hellfire, this fire in my skin.
But for a musical like this, the Gargoyles can't get away without a song. So they put in their own comedic flair when hitting up A Guy Like You.
A guy like you.
With all you bring at her, a fool can tell it's why she fell for you now.
Finally, the film decided to mix both light and dark in order to bring in the whimsically macabre of the Court of Miracles as an answer from the gypsies on how they treat intruders.
Maybe you've heard of a terrible place where the scoundrels of Paris collecting their fare. Maybe you've heard of that mythical place called the Court of Miracles. Hello, you're there!
As you can see, each song in the soundtrack is built to be unique with a different idea it wants to convey, but still fit into the film to have it be as theatrically large as possible. Even if the songs are different from each other, they managed to work together in order to create an amazing soundtrack. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is not only one of Disney's darkest animated films, but also one of their most underrated. Sure, the addition of the humor and the gargoyles are a little out of place, but this is one of those movies that, when it does something right, it executes it perfectly with a strong story that takes a lot of risk, beautiful animation, memorable characters, and a powerful soundtrack. Now, in terms of my recommendation, this would highly depend on your relationship with the original book that it's based on. If you love the book and hope for a faithful adaptation, maybe this is not for you. If you don't mind that it goes off the pages and don't care about the book, then you might be more open to it. I'll say right now that this is more catered for animation and Disney fans more than for Victor Hugo fans. But either way, I still consider this a must-watch as a breathtaking movie. It's a great example of the power of Disney storytelling, and it definitely gets the AniMat's seal of approval. Hey guys, this is AniMat. I just want to start things out by giving a huge thanks to Nick J for his amazing support on Patreon, which actually got him this review of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, if I may take a moment to discuss about how it is as an adaptation, because there are many people out there who would heavily criticize this movie just because of the fact that it doesn't respectfully follow the novel by Victor Hugo. In which, to that, I must say, it's Disney. What the fridge else do you expect? That's what they would do to every single movie that they would make. Rather it be based on a novel or a fairy tale, they would always twist it to make it barely recognizable from the original source material and turn it into its own product. I mean, if they've done that with Rudyard Kipling or with Lewis Carroll or even with Charles Dickens, what makes you think that they're going to do something a little bit different with The Hunchback of Notre Dame? They've always done that, and it works for the most part, or at least it works for them financially and creatively, where they would bring us these timeless classics again and again, and it just so happens they decided to do that with The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And especially with this one, though, like, they do keep some of the darker elements, which it goes into new lengths for a Disney film, where it goes into religion, it goes a lot into death and genocide and murder, and it goes into lust and all different aspects of love other than the happily ever after trope, you know? At least on that end, what the novel did is that it really pushed Disney onto new levels with its storytelling, and it works beautifully. And for me personally, I loved it. It's definitely one of my favorite Disney films, on top of like all the elements just done so beautifully. In fact, I don't even mind the gargoyles. I actually really do enjoy Victor Hugo and Laverne. So overall, this is just to say that, I mean, there's no point in really criticizing that it's not as good as an adaptation, because that's what Disney does. They never faithfully adapt anything. They just do their own thing. I mean, that's what they did with Hunchback, so I don't see why it should be treated differently than any of their other films. But anyways, that is pretty much it with Hunchback, and now it is time that we go and move on to the animation hat. Oh, and before I get into this, I would just like to say that if you guys would like to be like Nick and you want to go and support my work while also getting some awesome rewards at the same time, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. But at the same time, if you guys would like to suggest to me an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is go and write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. Okay, so with all that said, let's go and get things started with one. Let's see if I'll be able to grab one. I'm shaking it as much as I can, and I think I dropped a few. Okay, there we go. Okay, we got one. Did I drop? Okay, yeah, I dropped several, actually. Okay, I'll clean that up later, because right now I'm just going to go and reveal what the next one shall be. Oh boy. Okay, well, I'm going to be sticking with Disney for this one. However, I'm not necessarily sticking around with some of their more original works. Sadly, this one is going to be a sequel, though, and I just wish that, well, I only wish that the thing I picked was a glitch instead of the movie.
All right, pour the wine and cut the cheese.